Hi, I'm Darley Newman, and we are here at historic Halifax, taking a step back in time on a revolutionary road trip here in North Carolina. We're going behind the scenes at the Greensboro History Museum to see artifacts from the American Revolution,
including spurs owned by George Washington.
We're enlisting local experts at Bennett Place and beyond to discover Civil War history, how Greensboro played a role in the civil rights movement here at the International Civil Rights Center and Museum.
They wanted to sit here just like every other member of society.
We're filling out our jeans and eating local here at Blue Denim, trying some really good barbecue here in Johnston County at
the Redneck Barbecue Lab.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Woo, welcome to Travels with Darley. We're traveling from Greensboro past Raleigh to historic Halifax to discover North Carolina's unique role in the nation's revolutionary history, the Civil War, Civil Rights Movement, and jeans. In Greensboro, we're starting at Guilford Courthouse National Military Park, the site of a pivotal battle that changed the course of the Southern campaign during the American Revolution. Park Ranger Jason Baum guides us through the preserved battleground.
And on this battlefield, on March 15th, 1781, we had the American Army under General Nathaniel Greene fighting the British Army under General Charles Cornwallis.
Big names of the time.
Big names of the time. Two of the best commanders in either army. And what we have is an army of 4,400 American soldiers facing about 2,000 British. Nathaniel Greene is trying to use his soldiers to what he thinks they're capable of, because his army isn't just professionals. He has what are called militiamen. The hope is that as they do this, they'll cause casualties in the British line, get them disrupted, and eventually when the British get all the way through the battlefield, they'll find Greene's strongest and last defensive line, his Continentals, his professional soldiers. Despite Greene's unique strategy here, he ultimately loses. The American army is forced off the battlefield. The British won, but in the process of winning, they lost a quarter of their armies, tons of casualties.
And it would change the course of the Southern campaign.
Absolutely. We consider this a turning point in the sense that it really forces the British to reassess what they're doing here in the Southern colonies and what kind of strategy they're going to pursue going forward from here.
We stand at the former homestead of the Hoskins family, who found themselves thrown into the war as their backyard became a battlefield. Why is it important to have places like this preserved?
People could come back here and actually stand in the footprint of where a soldier stood and try and understand why would somebody commit to one side or the other. To be able to actually stand in nature and both enjoy the peace of the modern day, but also contemplate the struggles that took place here are very important for all of us to kind of reassess, how did we get here? Why are things the way they are?
Less than a mile from the Hoskins farm, Superintendent Aaron LaRocca shares how the park helps to keep American Revolutionary history alive for future generations. This is quite a grand monument, larger than life.
That's the Greene Monument that was placed here in 1915.
What was happening at the time period that this was constructed?
Well, the intent of this place, the original intent was that Guilford Courthouse National Military Park would be this destination for patriotism, allowing North Carolinians to reconnect with their patriotic history.
And over here, we have a monument to the North Carolina signers of the Declaration of Independence.
That's right. So 2 of the 3 signers of the Declaration of Independence from North Carolina are reinterred here. That was part of the idea of this kind of patriotic destination. We have a lot of people who come here to recreate, too, but we also have the visitors who come here for that Revolutionary War story, who want to understand the history of the Revolutionary War as it happened as part of the Southern campaign.
Our next stop is at the Greensboro History Museum, which houses artifacts from the American Revolution and historical icons like Dolly Madison. Museum Director Carol Gorsey Hart takes us inside.
So Dolly was born in Guilford County, right down the road. She left when she was only a year old, but we still claim her as her own. She was the first lady who really started to define the role of what the first lady could be. Around 1960, we came into possession of an incredible trunk that had belonged to Dolly that contained clothing, dresses, shoes, letters.
Dolly Madison's dress was found in the trunk, and some believe it was made from another White House keepsake.
So here's Dolly Madison's beautiful red velvet gown that definitely dates to around the 18-teens.
Do you believe that this dress was made from the White House drapes?
I do. We had a conservator doing work in the 1970s, and she said, you know, the weight of this fabric is more like drapery fabric. And when people started to put two and two together, she saved the red velvet curtains that were in the White House. This is a dress made from red velvet, same time period. Could it be? So I think there is a very good chance. I think that's why she saved it.
A piece of the White House and Dolly Madison. A real piece of history here.
Yes, absolutely.
Carol shows me spurs owned by George Washington.
If you look very carefully, right inside there, you can see his initials.
We love a good George Washington reference on our Revolutionary road trips. Greensboro is the birthplace of Dolly Madison and of jeans. We're heading to Revolution Mill, which is housed in a historic flannel mill that has been repurposed into spaces for shopping, public art, local businesses, homes, and more. Revolution Mill is an example of a multi-use space where history is ever present. Evan Morrison introduces me to this mill, whose roots date back to the 19th and early 20th centuries.
Within the first 10 years of it operating, it doubled in its productive capacity. The city was one of the largest employers and also held the titles at the same time concurrently of being the world's largest producer of denim, as well as the world's largest producer of flannel and corduroy fabrics.
So Greensboro is Jeansboro.
It is effectively Jeansboro here.
Evan is part of a new generation of designers, continuing the legacy of the denim capital. Hudson's Hill is one of the many local businesses giving Revolution Mill a new purpose. Nick Piornak shares more about the workspaces inside.
We have 149 companies here. People don't believe it. It's like
It's a hub.
Mini campus, yeah.
So interesting to think about the history of the mill workers and then all the different businesses that are now here at Revolution Mill today.
A lot of the textile companies are designing here. And what that does is attract photography studios, the graphic artists. They all can now work under one synergetic hub here.
So it's become a hub for art and creativity.
Absolutely.
We head downtown to see where Evan sells his handmade jeans at Hudson's Hill, and also find the Wrangler store, where you can discover vintage and one-of-a-kind pieces from designers beta testing their latest creations. Downtown Greensboro is also home to a restaurant that honors the city's denim story. At Blue Denim, I sit down with owner and chef Jody Morphus to talk about the restaurant's denim decor and cuisine. Chef. Blue denim, blue denim, blue denim. It's a denim extravaganza.
Denim here, denim there, denim everywhere. It's called Blue Denim, but we brought a little Cajun Creole theme to it, and that's where I was raised down in Mississippi and Louisiana. You have our crab cake, a jumbo lump crab meat with a corn puree, grilled asparagus, and a potato pop, and it's topped with crispy leeks.
Really well seasoned, crispy on the outside, nice lump crab meat.
Yeah, that's important. Really big chunks of crab meat, holding together by the grace of God, and not a bunch of binders.
Here's to not fit in your jeans after you eat
That's
at Blue
right.
Denim. Our next stop, Printworks Beastro, located adjacent to the Proximity Hotel, is known for their brunch. This smells really good.
It's the mother of all cinnamon buns.
Wow. You will not go hungry on a trip to Greensboro, I know that. Co-owner Dennis Quaintance shares how guests can dine and stay at a sustainable hotel modeled after Greensboro's historic cut and sew factories.
The idea was that we wanted to build a hotel that respected our city's history, and textiles are so sort of central to it that we designed a hotel as if it had been a textile plant.
So lots of time and care and local artistry that went into designing this. Also nods to sustainability here.
Well, yes, we're the first U.S. Green Building Council LEED Platinum hotel in the world.
Just down the road from Printworks Bistro, I'm visiting O. Henry Hotel to see where locals and hotel guests come together to have afternoon tea. Co-owner Nancy King Quaintance tells me more about the original O. Henry Hotel and how it inspired this tradition as we savor a regal tea offering.
When we built this hotel, fashioned after the original O. Henry, which was built in 1919, we decided that we wanted, like that hotel, to have a hotel that was a gathering place for the community. So one of the ways to have a hub for the community is to have a gracious lobby with things that happen in the lobby on a regular basis. So we decided that afternoon tea would be one of those things.
Let's have some tea.
Yes.
If you're in Greensboro, the International Civil Rights Center and Museum is a must-visit stop. It was here that during the Civil Rights Movement, local students held a series of peaceful protests that would change history. CEO John Swain takes us on a tour.
Take us back in time.
Sure.
To what happened in this space that's so well preserved today.
This, as you know, was the F.W. Woolworth's lunch counter. African American people weren't allowed to come into this building and occupy the seats. They weren't allowed to eat in here at all. They wanted to sit here just like every other member of society.
On February 1st, 1960, 4 Black college students sat down at the Greensboro Woolworths counter. They were refused service and remained seated until the store was closed. They came back the next day, joined by more student protesters, and word spread. Other students staged sit-ins across the nation.
The young students showed up until this counter was desegregated on July 25th of 1960.
The Woolworths counter is preserved in what is now the International Civil Rights Center and Museum.
We receive about 30,000 high schoolers in here each year. They are very different people once they walk through.
It's that power of place.
It is.
We're leaving Greensboro and driving about a half hour to Alamance Battleground, where leading up to the American Revolution, a group of North Carolina colonists led a rebellion against the government. Site manager Nathan Schultz explains the regulator movement.
For North Carolina specifically, regulator refers to this protest movement, this very organized, very democratic, farmer-led, populist protest movement to resolve these issues of the colonial government.
Issues such as unfair taxation, extortion, and other inequalities dashed the farmers' hopes of a better life in North Carolina. They joined together in a movement that was not welcomed by Governor William Tryon and local officials. This came to a head during the Battle of Alamance.
Right here, over 2,000 regulators, regular, ordinary farmers, stood against an unjust government under William Tryon. On the other side of the hill, about 1,000 members of his militia arrived here on May 16th of 1771, along with 8 cannons, all intent to end what they viewed as an insurrection and as a rebellion and losing the control of the colony. And it's snuffed out by the revolutionaries. The people at the same time, who are literally the Sons of Liberty, who are just fought the Stamp Act protest, who will later fight in the revolution, are the people with Tryon who literally give the order to fire on the regulators. Over 100 people were killed here. They hang a man who fought back at the battle, who refused to sign an oath of allegiance to them, and they hang 6 more in Hillsboro.
The story goes that the governor at that time, William Tryon, really wanted to make sure that he made a point. He wanted to make a point of ending this rebellion and ending the regulators.
Greg Mack takes us to the spot where the regulators were hung.
We're on this hill, up on this higher spot so the whole town could see.
Absolutely. This hill overlooks the town of Hillsboro. They said that the governor had actually had the area cleared so that everybody could see what was going to happen. He pardoned 6, we don't know why, and 6 were hung here. And these were the folks that were deemed to be the leaders of the regulators, which is the reason why they were arrested.
There are lots of historic homes to see in Hillsboro, some with ties to the Battle of Alamance.
We're coming on up to the Nash Hooper House. Francis Nash was a lawyer, came down from Virginia in order to make his fortune here in Hillsboro. He actually fought with the governor at the Battle of Alamance, and then later on fought with the Continental Army. In 1777, he was killed at the Battle of Germantown in Pennsylvania. What's interesting to note about that is that Francis Nash, Nashville, Tennessee, is actually named in honor of Francis Nash. The Nash house was sold to a William Hooper. William Hooper was one of the 3 signers of the Declaration of Independence from North Carolina. And what's interesting to note about Hooper is that when they were having the Constitutional Convention just down the street here at the old St. Matthew's Church, it was said that he went ahead and entertained all the delegates here in his house.
Just around the corner from the Nash Hooper House is Hillsboro's Old Town Cemetery, where you can see a marker for the original burial site of William Hooper. Also nearby, travelers can visit a replica of the Occaneechi Indian Village. Their original settlement was not far from the current reconstructed site, which is meant to show what it may have looked like in the late 1600s, when the community was active in trading leather and fur with Europeans and other tribes. We're stopping at Saxbah General Store, a one-stop, no-frills general store and restaurant that draws in travelers for really good eats and to help support this small farming community.
The duck jam is one of their most highly sought after dishes. This is 1/3 of a pound of a burger on a brioche bun with cheddar cheese, blueberry ketchup, and duck bacon. The burger is so well seared on the outside, which I really, really like. The cheddar cheese is sharp, brioche bun.
About an hour and a half away from Hillsboro, site manager Colby Stevens leads us through the Harper House, which once served as a field hospital. It's located at Bentonville Battlefield, the site of the largest Civil War battle in North Carolina.
80,000 some troops?
Yeah, 80,000 people. And it's hard to imagine just how many people that is. Sherman has over 60,000 Union soldiers under his command here, and another 30,000 in Goldsboro waiting on him. So this is the farm home of John and Amy Harper. John and Amy lived here at the time of the battle with 6 kids and 2 grandkids.
So this is set up to look like it would have in Civil War times.
So it's set up to look how it would have as a Civil War field hospital. Over 554 soldiers were treated here over the course of just 2.5 days.
So downstairs, this gruesome scene, hundreds of people being treated, and upstairs, the Harper family is experiencing all of this.
Just trying to survive the best way they can. Less than a mile away, there's 21 cannons firing constantly. So the whole house is shaking. You can't even imagine what they must have been going through up there.
White sugar as an antiseptic, extract of beef, and condensed milk. These were all used as medicine.
Yes. So they had to get creative with what they had, and these are all the supplies that they're carrying with them in the field.
Colby, it's remarkable that this house has stood here through all these tumultuous times.
But the Harper House being a mile behind lines and being used as a field hospital, it was protected. And then the families that lived here preserved the house. They knew the importance of where they were. And so just in the last 30 years or so, we've preserved over 2,000 acres here.
A southern red oak witness tree, which may date from before the Civil War, stands outside of the home-turned-hospital. Travelers can walk and drive to explore trails and see memorials and grave sites honoring those who fought and died here. From Bentonville Battlefield, we drive a little under 30 minutes northwest to Redneck Barbecue Lab.
This is my second time dining in a restaurant at a gas station here on this trip to North Carolina, and this one also award-winning.
Owner Jerry Stevenson shares the science behind his award-winning flavors.
Redneck Barbecue Lab.
Yep. We were building these homemade smokers out of barrels, and they look like trash cans. We go to a tailgate at a football game, and some guy looked at him and was like, look at these bunch of rednecks. And we open these smokers up, and we start pulling out meat. So we said Redneck Scientific, because everybody asked how these cookers work, and we were like, it's Redneck Science. This is a St. Louis style rib. Here at the lab, it's the cherry wood, which comes from North Carolina.
A little sweet with the sauce, but then you get to the meat and you taste that salt, which I like. It kind of pulls you in.
There's the heat, the sweet, the smoke, and the salt.
That's really good.
Thank you.
Okay, baked beans.
Well, one of the things that we use in our baked beans is our brisket that we cook. It's the bits, the ends, and the pieces. We add some other spices, as well as a big dollop of molasses.
It's like a savory sweet.
Well, it should be balanced.
Well, we have been dissecting this barbecue, but now I need to dive in.
And you got your chocolate cake I forgot about.
Oh, yeah, that sounds so good.
Just 20 minutes south, we're stopping at family-owned and operated Broadslab Distillery. Owner Jeremy Norris shares how he's continuing his family's legacy that goes back to the Prohibition era.
If you farm small nowadays, you have to diversify. So I came up with the wild idea, why not build a distillery and we'll row crop and take the grain and turn it into whiskey, call it dirt to bottle.
Dirt to bottle?
Dirt to bottle.
Even better.
These are the single barrels, and they're really smooth to be the proof they are. I think this one's 115 1/4. A little on the warm side, but you'll enjoy it. Cheers.
Oh, it just hits the back. I feel the heat.
Yeah, you got
the heat is on that one. You've had this farm in your family for so many generations, and now you've found a way to keep the farm going by doing something innovative and something that maybe relatives had done illegally. You've made legal and you've made a success. So cheers to that.
Thank
Wait,
you.
you drank all yours.
Well, I got a little bit of bourbon there.
Cheers.
So moonshine is a very important part of Johnston County's story. A lot of the early settlers who came in here were from Scotland, and they knew all about the business of distilling.
At the Johnson County Heritage Center, Director Todd Johnson shares an unusual fact about moonshining in Johnston County.
Beginning of the Revolutionary War, instead of paying the soldiers in money, they paid them in beverages. So a lot of moonshine history in Johnston County.
Beside the Johnston County Heritage Center, you can explore the Ava Gardner Museum. Ava Gardner was born in the area, and the museum charts her career and personal life, from famous husbands to fabulous fashion. We're traveling to Bennett Place State Historic Site, where General Johnston of the Confederate Army surrendered to General Sherman of the U.S. Army, effectively ending the Civil War in the Carolinas, Georgia, and Florida. Site manager Caitlin O'Connor leads us through the Bennett House.
Well, this is the Bennett's parlor. General Sherman, General Johnston would have sat essentially right here in this corner. Now, this is reconstructed to look exactly like it would have about 160 years ago. So you can really step back into time when you visit Bennett Place.
The Bennett family that was here, they were farming hogs, they made clothing, and they sold to travelers right along this road.
Being on the Hillsborough Road, they essentially become an Airbnb and an Uber service. They rent out their room in their house to passersby.
It's fun to think of it that way.
Yeah.
We have this Unity Monument here.
So that's part of what we're doing here at Bennett Place today, is exploring what the end of the Civil War meant for all North Carolinians and how the impact of the war touched everyone from Reconstruction to Jim Crow and onwards.
We're stepping back in time to discover what colonial life was like in the destination where the Halifax Resolves recommended independence from England. Frank McMahon shows us the well-preserved buildings complete with costumed interpreters in Halifax, North Carolina.
Halifax was a trade hub. This was as far as you could bring an ocean-going ship up the Roanoke River. So this was a place that was loaded with warehouses and trade. And there were many taverns in 18th century Halifax. This particular tavern hosted the Marquis de Lafayette in 1825 when he visited Halifax.
Inside, you can dive further into tavern life during colonial times. Across the street, we step inside the 1760s tap room to learn a colonial game.
This game, Hazard, was a very popular 18th century game. It's a precursor to craps, so it's a dice game, it's a gambling game. From the center.
Travelers can also see the 1838 jail and markers for the Underground Railroad Trail. The Roanoke Canal, Roanoke River, and historic Halifax were all part of a complex transportation network enslaved peoples used on their quest for freedom. We walked to the site where a courthouse once stood.
This is an important place for the history of North Carolina because this is where the Halifax Resolves was created by the 4th Provincial Congress. This is where we gave our permission to representatives in Philadelphia to eventually sign the Declaration of Independence. Darley, would you like to have a copy of the Halifax Resolves?
Sure. North Carolina was the first colonial government to call for independence from England. Resolved at Halifax on this day, the 12th of April, 1776, by authority of the Provincial Congress of North Carolina. Very official. Our final stop is a home that dates back to 1760, owned by Colonel Bradford, a delegate elected to the 4th Provincial Congress.
So the building is an original building that's restored, but there's also these outbuildings.
Here we have the colonial kitchen.
There's a well, and also a smokehouse. This is almost like travel on a time machine, and this is a chance for visitors to interact with what life was like 250 years ago.
The power of place is ever present here in North Carolina. It's so many sites we've visited related to the American Revolution, the Civil Rights Movement, and beyond. Thanks so much for joining me on this revolutionary road trip here in North Carolina. And thanks for watching and learning. We're learning about where Greensboro got its name.
Maybe from the guy on the statue, General Nathaniel Greene?
All right, I'm ready.
There you go, Bob. Bob. And we're walking through, or are we standing here? Walk back and through. Okay.
Wow, that was fancy.
Okay, what's happening? These are both empty. Am I slower?